I was one of the very few figures on the left sent underground into South Africa as an operative of the African National Congress, led by Nelson Mandela, described by President Reagan and Margaret Thatcher as terrorists. I worked underground in apartheid South Africa, and every city I went to, every house that I lived in, every car I was driven in, every dinner that I ate, every penny that I spent was provided by Jewish activists of the African National Congress. Jews don't have to be with apartheid. They don't have to be with oppression. They can be, and they are, with liberation and with freedom, and we honor all of those. Now I have to deal this evening with two great subjects. There may be other interests, preoccupations even, in the hall. Don't worry, I'm ready to answer your questions on anything at all. But the two subjects I'm here to talk about, in addition to this free speech issue, are Afghanistan and Palestine. I see that your government has again broken its promise to the military families, to the military themselves, and to the voters in Canada, having promised you again that you would be withdrawing from this doomed and disastrous, now almost 10-year war in Afghanistan. But of course, your men are only going to be training. Does nobody in Canada ever ask, how come these Afghan army types need quite so much training? 10 years you've been training them. The training budget of Karzai's army is $1 billion a month. A month! $12 billion a year on training. It's bigger than the budget for the whole of the rest of the government. $1 billion a month on training, without any noticeable improvement in 10 years in the performance of this army. 35% of whom, according to the United States, disappear out the back door, fully trained, and join the Taliban. Apparently the wages are better. Really, apparently the wages are better. Well, of course, once Karzai and his drug-dealing brother and his warlords have filled their pockets, well, there's not much left to give to the trained soldiers. So they disappear, more than 1/3 of them, and join the Taliban. Nobody's training the Taliban, by the way, and they seem to be doing quite well. The idea that 900 Canadian trainers are going to either make any kind of difference to the outcome of this bloody conflict or be safe is ridiculous. Mr. Harper says they'll be behind barbed wire in Kabul. Well, that sounds safe, doesn't it? Nobody is safe anywhere in Afghanistan, behind barbed wire or in Kabul or not. The people of Afghanistan have never been successfully occupied by any foreign army. Even Alexander the Great. It's a fact. This is the problem, you see. These political leaders know nothing of history. You can excuse Bush, he was an imbecile. But you can't excuse Blair or Harper. They must know that even Alexander the Great did not successfully occupy Afghanistan, and Mr. Harper, you ain't no Alexander the Great. This war is doomed, and everybody knows it. As a matter of fact, we're now practically begging the Taliban to come and negotiate a basis for our withdrawal. And they will come, and they will negotiate the terms for our withdrawal. The problem is, the terms will be the same this year or next year as they were last year or at any year during this 10 years of war, which means we'll be leaving on the same terms we could always have got, which means that all those soldiers gave their life's blood for nothing, and all those Afghans in their thousands, uncounted. Anybody ever seen a figure for the number of Afghan dead in this war? I remember on the eve of the attack on Afghanistan, George W. Bush's wife and Tony Blair's wife giving a joint transatlantic press conference, kind of synchronized swimming in the grief of the post 9/11 families. They both talked about the obscene death suffered by those American women on those airplanes on 9/11. They both asked us to remember those heartbreaking messages of grief, of farewell, of love sent by those American women from their mobile telephones left on the answering machines of their loved ones. I said at the time, just because Afghan women don't have mobile telephones and their loved ones don't have answering machines, it won't make their deaths delivered from the sky any less obscene than the deaths of those American women on 9/11. It has all been for nothing. Canada lost more soldiers dead as a proportion of their presence in the country than any other country involved in this occupation. And now Mr. Harper wants you to stay until 2014. I doubt if they'll still be there in 2014. But if they are, it will be at the cost of many lives, both their own and even more at the cost of many Afghan lives, and not just at the cost of those directly involved who fall there. I said, if you'll forgive me quoting myself, 4 days after 9/11, when the British Parliament was recalled, I said, if we handle this the wrong way, we will create 10,000 new bin Ladens. We have created hundreds of thousands of new bin Ladens. With every murderous attack on a wedding party or any kind of congregation or gathering, every attack from drones or from the highest tech military aircraft, every new massacre in Afghanistan, and for that matter in Iraq, is recruiting and fanaticizing scores, hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of new, embittered, enraged Muslims who see our double standards, who see what we do rather than hear what we say, and become dedicated to harming us, even incinerating themselves in order to harm us. I saw it in my own London constituency on the 7th of July, 7/7/2005, when 55 Londoners, statistically speaking almost certainly in their overwhelming majority, having been opposed to the wars in Iraq, and Afghanistan, and hundreds of wounded, maimed, 55 dead. I saw them with my eyes being carried, broken, dead, bleeding from the underground stations in London. I said then that afternoon in the Parliament, this was a despicable crime of mass murder that happened in London today. It is a sin in any religion, a crime in any language, to kill and maim innocent people, to punish guilty people who were all in Gleneagles as it happened on the day. The difference, I said, between me and you, Mr. Blair, is that I believe killing and maiming innocent people for political purposes is a sin and a crime, whether it's carried out by a man with a beard and a turban in the Tora Bora, or a man in a suit in the White House, or in Whitehall, or in Ottawa, or in Tel Aviv. That's the difference between you and me. These wars are driving more and more people to hate us. They are deepening what I describe as a swamp of bitterness and hatred, sowing it, watering it with new blood with every day in these occupations, in these wars, with this injustice and these double standards. They're always looking for an Islamic organization to blame for the fanaticization that's underway in the Muslim world. Always looking for a cleric to ban or a book to proscribe. But actually, all that a young Muslim in the world today needs to get radicalized is possession of a television and the ability to watch the news. That's what's radicalizing people. What we are doing in these occupations and in these wars. And when we move to the subject of Palestine, we move to the heart of the matter. You see, it may be a matter of no great moment outside in the street to the ordinary citizen in our countries that the Palestinians are the victims of one of the greatest crimes of the 20th century, now bleeding into the 21st. But be sure that amongst the 2 billion Muslims in the world, it matters a very great deal indeed. When they see us talking about bringing democracy to Afghanistan, democracy to Iraq, whilst we're starving the Palestinians in an illegal siege to punish them for how they voted in the only democratic election ever held in any Arab country, ever in history. They know that this is the deepest and rankest hypocrisy. Because that's what this siege is all about. Google it and see. It's not about rockets being fired from Gaza. It's not about the existence of charters. It's about the fact that the Palestinians voted for a party that the powers in the world don't like. Well, let me say something to you. I've said it 10,000 times. Let me say it 10,001. I am not now, nor have I ever been, a supporter of Hamas. If I had had a vote, I wouldn't have voted for them. If I had a vote, I wouldn't vote for them.